Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a backend application that can communicate with your charge point over OCPP protocol. So what is this OCPP protocol? This OCPP is a protocol that a EV charge point uses to communicate with the backend to do operation like boot notification, getting configuration, and start, stop transaction, and many other OCPP allowed operations. So what you need to know already before moving forward, you need to know what this charge point is, what OCPP protocol is, basic Spring Boot app, and basic WebSocket. I'm not going to explain this in this video. So yeah, first you need to know this. After you know this, go to this start.spring.io, select programming language and the build file, and select one dependency, which is WebSocket. Generate the project and open it with your favorite IDE. I have it already opened here. Now, first, let's create the WebSocket handler that is going to handle this communication from the charge point to your backend. So charge point communicates to the backend over WebSocket connection with OCPP protocol. All right, so first let's create the handler. So I have already have some snippets that I'm going to use so that you don't need to see me write the whole thing. This is going to extend the WebSocket handler, which has some method we need to override. So I'm not going to deal with all of this in this video. We're gonna work with only these two. So after we receive a message over WebSocket, we first want to log it. So let's write that code. First, this is how we are receiving the message and getting the payload, and we are going to get the charge point name. So when charge point is making this communication, it is sending the charge point name into the URL. So to get the URL, we are going to create this method. In the meantime, we are also going to have some helper method that we are going to use later on. This method is pretty simple. It's just converts the instant.now into a string that we defined. And this method is just convert everything that we send it to into a JSON object. With that, let's add the logger. Get the logger factory from slf4j. Just log the message. Now, after we receive the first message from the charge point, we need to acknowledge that, hey, we accept this connection from this charge point. So initially, charge point is going to send a OCPP message like this over WebSocket. So here it says, what is this message type? It's the message ID, and for request, it's to from the charge point to the backend. So with this method, with this message, we need to reply, hey, we accept. To accept this request, I have already created another method that checks whether this is a boot notification or not. So here it's just getting this request message from the top. And pass it over here. From here, initially you're just checking if this session is still open or not, just for safekeeping. And if it is not, just returning with showing an error. Okay, so next we are converting it to the list of string. As you can see, it's a list of string. So we don't care about this part. We only need this two. That's why I'm converting everything into list of strings because I need to access this two field. So we are checking, okay, this second position is put notification or not. If it is yes, then we are generating a response. So response is also looks like this, a list of string and a map of data where we are saying, hey, status we accept and send the current time and set the interval. And we use this method over here to transform it into a JSON. And then using the session object WebSocket section, we are sending back this message. And we are here, this is the message ID. So as I mentioned, the message ID we receive from the request, we have to send the exact one into the response. So that's what we are doing over here. Let's finally import it. You'll see it in a moment where we are getting this. Don't worry about it. So after we start the application, you'll see it. Okay, next thing we need is creating a configuration class that register this as a bean, and we add this into WebSocket registry. So let's do that. Create a class. Mark it as configuration. Enable WebSocket and extend WebSocket configurer and override the method. Here again, I have some code snippet. Sorry. And yeah, just need to add it to the registry. And as I mentioned, we get the charge point ID into the URL. So tell that. And yeah, that's it. We also need a interceptor. I'll tell you in a minute why. I have the interceptor code as well. So this interceptor, what it does is when it receives a call into the socket, it checks if the header has this value. If it has, and if it contains OCPP 1.6, it also returns this into the response header. This is required for OCPP communication. So yeah, the same thing is possible for other version like 2.1. So we need to add that and just mention it over here. Finally, let's put the server URL. Shows 8,000 and yeah, start the application. Now go to the charge point. So I have access to this ABL charge point. In here, you need to go to connectivity and into the OCPP. There you mentioned the OCPP charge point URL. So this is your machine IP and the port. So which I mentioned over here, 8,000. Save it and then just restart it. So it takes some time. After this, you will see this message in the OCPP log. Looks like the charge point is restarted. Now to see for the ABL, you need to go to maintenance and log and OCPP logs. It is similar to with other vendors like Manakis and other vendors. Yeah, I'm just showing it for this. So yeah, this one is trying to communicate. It's still not sent the put notification. It will send the put notification in a minute. All right, it sent the put notification, and as you can see, it's the same message that I have shown over here. I can open it with another tab. See, it's the same thing. And you can also see that this is what backend server is sending as accepted current time and the interval that we decided. We can also see the same log in our application log as well, as we are logging pretty much everything from the handler over here. Now we are receiving and we accepted the put notification, so now we should be able to send other requests. And because we accepted the request, we are also getting the status notification, among other things, later on. Yeah, now we can send information like start transaction, stop transaction, or maybe get configuration. So let's implement the get configuration, which is easier to see how things are going forward from ChargePoint to, sorry, backend to ChargePoint. Start transaction, stop transaction should be similar. Okay, to send the get configuration request, I again created a method that we can use, which is get charge point. Here you just need to follow the message structure, send a unique ID, and send it with the session object. Probably did not copy the whole thing. Now we need to first store the session into some places. So for that, I'm gonna use a global variable and use concurrent hash map. And this is going to be session. Yeah. And it's going to get the session. So here what I'm doing is getting the session by charge point name. We haven't stored it yet, so let's first store that. So we're gonna store that in here. First we are gonna get, and we are going to, based on the charge point name, we're going to store this session object. So as you know, as I have already mentioned, it always sends the charge point time, but in case if it doesn't, we can just throw we did not get the charge point name. So we stored it over here, and then in this method, we will pass it from some places like a REST controller, the charge point name, and the the configuration value we want to receive. Yeah, after that, we get the session, we generate a random ID, generate the message. So this message structure I am getting from the official documentation. So you can search for documentation, get a document like this and search for get configuration, and you get the structure how you should send. So you can send one, you can send multiple with a comma over here. So that's exactly what I did over here. And then converted it to session string using the session object. We are sending the message using this, and finally just logging what we sent to the charge point. Now to access this, I will create a simple endpoint. This is a simple Spring application REST controller where we are injecting the handler, and this is the endpoint where we want to hit with the charge point name that we receive, and then you check if it is a OCPP this handler class, and if it is, then we are sending this method with the OCPP, charge point name that we received from this get endpoint, and the config name of which the value we want to receive. Okay, yeah, with that we have everything. So first, let's just copy the charge point name that we received from the URL, and then just restart the application. Okay, application restarted. There is no connection yet. You will see a message over here once we get a connection. In fact, we should add a logger over here to see when the connection is added. So it is already connected. Yeah, we can see this charge point. Now we can go to this endpoint that we just created, pass the charge point name and the value of which we want to get. For example, what is the value of connection time out into the charge point? So let's make the API call, look into the log, and sure enough, we are getting for this configuration key. So this is the request we made. As you can see, this is 2, and this is the response we get. This is 3, and we are getting response as the value for this key is 300. We can do similar things with another key. For example, we can pass local pre-authorized and get the value of this from this charge point. And sure enough, for the local pre-authorized, we get the value of false. So similar to get configuration, we can send other OCPP call like a start transaction and a stop transaction, meter value and whatnot. Yeah, that's how it works. So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you in this video, how you can communicate with your charge point via OCPP and WebSocket, do some OCPP actions. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment below. That's it for today. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.